Hey, what's up, tubers? It's Tony, and today I'm going to show you the location of and how to remove your power steering pump on your '07 Ford Explorer. The concept should be the same on just about all the Ford Explorers, except for, I think, the power steering reservoir on some Explorers may sit over here, but you'll see that. You'll eventually need to disconnect the black cable from your battery, because you're going to disconnect an electrical connector, so it's always a good idea to do that. I've already taken a number of things loose, guys, to make this video as short as I possibly can, and I want you to keep in mind there are a number of ways of doing things. I'm going to show you the best way I know how to get the power steering pump loose and give you any helpful details that you need to know in the end when you put it all back together. So after you disconnect the black cable from the battery, you could drain radiator fluid from your radiator just a little bit, but you don't really need to. Break loose this clamp here for the radiator hose and that clamp there. Be prepared to catch what little bit of radiator fluid that will fall out of that tube when you disconnect it. Break loose this 10 or 8 millimeter bolt for the power steering reservoir. Place that to the side. You're going to disconnect the clutch fan's electrical connector, push that tab down and move that to the side. There is a 8 millimeter bolt right here holding this housing onto the block. Remove that, and then you can take the clutch fan and just move it to the passenger side of the motor. The next thing you're going to need to do is remove the drive belt. I use a 3/8 ratchet and install it into the groove built on the belt tensioner. That's the belt tensioner there. And then crank your ratchet towards the passenger side of the motor. That will take the stress off of the belt, and then you can remove the belt. FYI, if you're not familiar with how belts are routed on an engine, before you remove that belt, you want to take a picture or make a video of how your belt is routed. Okay? Oftentimes, a lot of people in the end, when they go back to put everything together, they'll have a handful of belt with no place to put it. Don't panic, guys. That just simply means you missed one of the many pulleys down there, and you just need to go back and route it correctly, and that will take care of it. Hint: route the belt over everything, meaning all the other pulleys. Make this the last pulley that you slide the belt over, okay? Your power steering pump is located behind this pulley right here. It's retained by 3 10 millimeter bolts. And I want you guys to keep in mind that I'm going to show you how to take this stuff apart, give you all the helpful hints. But when you do it, you're going to put it back together, okay? So keep track of your bolts and procedures that you're using to take this stuff apart, even if you don't follow word for word what I tell you in this video, okay? So break loose those 3 10 millimeter bolts. So this is what I do, guys. I take a short driver, ram it between this hole in the pulley, and that will keep it from moving. So to loosen those bolts, it's lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Or you can use one of these pry bar sets from Harbor Freight to do the same thing. And then this will allow you to turn the bolt to the left, and this won't move, okay? And then you can go ahead and remove the other 2 bolts. Now, be mindful when you remove these 3 bolts that hold the pulley on. Sometimes right in here there's a little plastic cap, and after you remove the bolts, it'll also kind of make it difficult to pull the pulley off. You just have to take a pry bar, hit this with a rubber hammer or a pry bar, and put behind there and break the pulley free. So I've already broken the pulley free, but I want you guys to remember, be careful on this side, because there's a line. There's the power steering fluid line on that side. You don't want to damage it, and you don't want to damage the hose on this side So just get your pry bar and you just have to work it until this pulley comes off. And eventually it'll come off, okay? Place that to the side. And there is your power steering pump. It's retained by 3 10mm bolts. Again, lefty loosey, righty tighty. But before you break loose these 3 bolts, you'll need to break loose that nut right there. I've already loosened it. And what you want to do is, let me see if I can get down there. Right up in here somewhere, there is a 8mm bolt holding this in place. I advise you to remove it, and then you can break this free. Most people believe that this is a 19mm bolt. It is not, okay? It's an 18mm wrench that you'll need, or a 3/4 inch wrench. Now, in most people videos, you'll see people trying to ram a wrench down in there to break this thing free. There's not really a great deal of room, guys, to get your wrench down in there and do your business. Trust me. You can try it, but there's not a lot of room. What you don't want to do is risk stripping this nut right here, okay? So I'm going to tell you how I do it so that I do it safely. I remove the upper part of the fan shroud. So I've done things to save time in this video. To get to the upper part of the fan shroud, you need to remove the radiator reservoir, 2 10mm bolts here, one here. Disconnect this line from the radiator and then pull the overflow up, and you can place that to the side. Now, to get the fan shroud out, there will be one 10mm bolt right there, okay? And there'll be another one on that side. Once you remove those bolts, you don't just want to pull the fan shroud up, because down there are 4 tabs that you need to push in to free it. Now, if yours is broken, then you can just pull it up. On most of these Explorers, it's broken because people, well, I guess time broke it. But you want to push in the little tab there after you remove the bolt. Push in the 2 tabs there after you remove the bolt. Then you can pull the fan shroud up and place that to the side. Now you'll notice you have a lot more room to safely break loose that nut. And to break it loose, guys, you want to turn it upwards to break it loose. And just take your time, guys. It's a tedious process because it's a tight spot. You'll get it out. And once you get it out, then you can go ahead and break loose these 3 10mm bolts, okay? FYI, when you go to put this into your new power steering pump, you want to put some thread tape on it. And what you can also do is, because this is a pain, trust me, take your time, this is a pain. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can bolt this back up, then you can put this part in, or you can let this hang down a little bit. Then you can start threading it just a little bit till it catches. You don't have to tighten it up. Then you can put this into its housing, tighten these 3 bolts down, and then come back and tighten that up. With these 3 bolts really tight, that gives you some room and torque to be able to tighten this nut. So raise it up to loosen it, take it down to tighten it, okay? And again, make sure you put some thread tape on those threads. Another helpful hint, I recommend that you clean your power steering pump reservoir as best you can, okay, guys? It's just really good to clean this stuff if you can do it. So I recommend that you clean this as best you possibly can, okay? If you plan on cleaning it, there are 2 lines that you need to disconnect. Just take some needle nose pliers and squeeze these in. Squeeze the clamp on this one as well, and then take a flat blade screwdriver and just slowly work this line off of there, and you can do the same thing here. There's a clamp down there that you need to break loose, but you can do that when you pull the old power steering pump out. There is a 8mm or 5/16 bolt right there that you need to break free, and then you can pull the entire power steering pump and reservoir out. So there it is, my friends, your old power steering pump and reservoir. Now, if you don't plan on cleaning the reservoir, you don't have to. Then all you really need to do is disconnect this line here and transfer it over to the new power steering pump. Now, in many of the pictures that you see in advertisements on the internet about power steering pumps, I want you guys to know that this is how it sits in your vehicle, because oftentimes they'll show you a picture on Amazon or YouTube or eBay like this. Why not show how the pump really sits in there so people know, yeah, that's what I really need, okay? So this goes right back in the reverse order that you are going to use to take it out, okay? So a helpful hint, when you go to put your new power steering pump in, put everything back together, you're gonna need to bleed the power steering system. And how do you do that? You jack both wheels up off the ground, okay? Make sure that both wheels are raised off the ground. Open the cap for the reservoir there, guys. And then you want to put the key in the ignition and turn it to the run position. You don't want to start the car. And then what you're going to do about 25 or 30 times is you're going to turn the steering wheel to the left. That's one time. Turn the steering wheel to the right. That's one time. Do that about 25 times, and what you're going to see is air bubbles coming out of here. Remember, cap off, car is off. Okay, you're going to see air bubbles coming out of here, and you want to keep doing that until you see no more air bubbles. You want to also make sure that you keep this topped off. So as you're doing that, the fluid level may go down a little bit as fluid moves through the system, but in the end you want to make sure that it's topped off right there, not overfilled, but topped off right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in to show you that it does go back in just like you took it out, and all you need is a little bit of time and patience. So hold tight, guys. And again, for putting it back in, take your time. Okay guys, there it is. I just didn't put the other bolt back in yet. Be patient when you're putting this in. And again, it's a good idea to remove the bolt that holds that line in place, okay? So that you can, there it is right there, so that you can maneuver that line out of your way so that you can get this back in without fighting it, okay? And again, for those of you who find it difficult to put this in first, meaning the power steering pump, and then put the line in, you can put the line in with the power steering pump not bolted in, and then you can bolt it. Just get the line started just a little bit, and then you're going to come back and tighten it in the end, okay? So I want you guys to see, with that line broke loose, I can maneuver this part to get it in and get it started, okay? So there are a number of ways you can do it. So as you see, I have it started. I have all kinds of tools that I use, guys, for short places, but this is a tedious process, and you want to take your time, okay? You want to make sure that you put thread tape around this nut before you put it in, okay? You want to make sure you put this in evenly so that you don't cross thread it, okay? And then just take your time, guys. I'll be back. Okay guys, now that I have it tight as best I could with the small wrench, I come back and really put the pressure on it with my 18mm wrench, okay? And again, this will give you way more room to get in there and tighten it. Now, You don't have to take the fan shroud off. If you really believe you can get down in there and remove that nut without removing the fan shroud, by all means, go right ahead. So put your tape on, make sure this is nice and tight. Make sure your bolts are nice and tight, all 3 of them. And now you put your pulley wheel back on, and it's 3 10mm bolts. So remember how we took those 3 10mm bolts loose? And remember, I rammed something on this side of the pulley. Just take a pry bar or a socket and stick down in here. Make sure you don't damage that line. And then lefty loosey, righty tighty. You want to go down there and make sure that that screw or bolt is back in place and tight. That helps hold that line in place and also keeps that line from being hit by the belt. Make sure you put this 8mm bolt back in. Okay guys, it's just that easy. Make sure you reconnect this monster here. Put your hose back on. This is the fan clutch electrical connector. Hook back up your radiator hose on both ends, okay? Put your fan shroud in first, then put your radiator hose on. Put your overflow back in. You know, just make sure that the belt is on, even though it's not on right here. Make sure the belt is on. I can put the belt back on without removing any of this. Okay, I don't need to remove any of this to put the belt back on. And again, remember, it is a 18mm wrench that you need, okay, not a 19, okay? And that's it, guys. So now you know where the power steering pump is located, right behind this pulley right here, okay? And it's held in by 3 10mm bolts. Break that loose, and then the power steering pump, there's a bolt on this side over here, down there, that you need to break free. Then you can break the 3 10mm bolts that hold the power steering pump in place. Just make sure you remember to bleed the power steering pump system when you're done in the end, guys. Make sure everything is hooked up. Put your reservoir back where it belongs, okay? And then bleed the system, and then you should be good to go, guys. So I hope this video has been beneficial to those of you who had questions about it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.